guys, welcome back to Wicked Quail and Pork Homestead. Today we need to preserve our peppers that we got out of the garden like last week. So I am going to do 2 pounds of ground beef's worth of stuffed peppers ready to go in the freezer for meals, and I'm going to freeze them in baggies so I can just grab 1 or 2 for lunch as well. And then the rest of the peppers we're just going to slice up, dice up, put them in the freezer. When people are asking me about gardening and about the different vegetables that they want to grow or don't want to grow, I love to touch base on the vegetables that are super easy to preserve, and peppers are one of them. They can be tricky to grow. However, once you get peppers to grow, they produce like crazy, and to preserve them, literally all you do is cut them up however you're going to use them the most, put them in a freezer bag and stick them in your freezer, pull them out whenever you need them. So I'm going to wipe down my counter, and then I'm going to get the stuffed pepper mix going. I need to start some rice. I haven't made stuffed peppers in a while. I'm probably going to do it the same way that my grandmother does it, just because that's what's in my brain right now. When I cook, it's just kind of on the fly. I don't use recipes. Really no method to my madness in the kitchen. But we'll get these started, and then we'll dice some peppers up. Okay. So I have onions and olive oil going behind me for the stuffed peppers. I'm going to let the onions cook down a little bit before I add in the ground beef, but I have 3 giant things of celery from N44, and just beautiful huge celery. I need to get this celery cut up and soaking in the sink so that I can do what I need to do with it. I have already done 8 bunches of celery from them, and I thought that would be enough, but we're already going through the celery products because it's so good. So I brought in 3 more, and if she has more in 2 weeks when she does delivery again, I'll probably bring in more. So with the celery, we've been making celery salt. We dehydrate the leaves and grind them up with pink Himalayan salt, and it is so good. It's also beautiful. I'll show you guys what the end product looks like. And then the stalks I blanch and put in the freezer for soups or sauces or whatever we feel like using them for. I've got to get these cut up, probably only one at a time, cut up and washed, and then get them in the dehydrator, and we'll blanch it either tomorrow or later on this afternoon. Some of the celery leaves I did put in the freezer, just cleaned and threw them in the freezer to go into broths as I stock our shelves back up with broth. So I do have 2 1-gallon bags of celery leaves in the freezer for that purpose. Now, where you've been hearing me complain a lot about the rain this summer, it has been raining multiple times a week, every week since June. And when I say multiple times a week, I mean 4 to 6 times a week. So that's messing up a lot of things, but one thing that is happy about this much rain is the celery. The celery's loving it. Celery likes water. It likes cooler weather. So I'm going to clean all of the leaves first, and then I'll do the stalks after. I want to make sure everything gets good and clean. Okay, so in here I have the ground beef, the onions, parsley, garlic powder, celery salt, regular salt, pepper, and paprika. And I'll taste it before I stuff the peppers to make sure it has everything I want, how I want it. But we're going to let this cook down and brown up, and then we'll add the rice to it, and I'll show you what I do from there. Celery leaves that I had in the sink are now in the dehydrator and going, and I have the stalks in the sink from that one bunch. I finished the filling for the stuffed peppers, so I did that meat onion mixture with the ground beef. I added in oregano, more salt, and more paprika and more pepper to account for the rice that isn't seasoned. So then I added in the white rice, and I also added in a can of diced tomatoes with garlic and olive oil. So that's what the mixture is. It's very simple, it's very easy. It's typically stuff that people have on hand. Ground beef, white rice, and tomatoes. And then all you have to do is, and hold on, look at these peppers, you guys. These are ginormous. Okay, they're huge. So these are the peppers we got out of our garden this year, and I'm super in love with them. Our peppers never get this big. So all you have to do is fill your pepper, and that's it. And you can fill it as full as you want to. These peppers are huge, so they're going to take a little more filling than usual. But I fill it to about there, so it's full, but it's not rounded over, because then what we're going to do next is we're going to take cheese, whatever kind you have on hand. Today for me, that is shredded mozzarella, and you're going to pack the cheese down on there. Nice, good, healthy helping. And that's what it looks like. You're going to put it in your bag, throw it in the freezer, pull it out the next time you don't want to make a meal. Toss it in the oven at like 375 until the pepper's nice and soft and kind of like folds when you push on it. And because everything else in here is cooked and ready to go, so you just got to get that pepper to a consistency that you like. We like ours on the softer side. So that's it. I'm going to get the rest of these. However many I can get out of this bowl of filling is going to be how many peppers I put in the freezer, and the rest of the peppers, like I said, I'm going to slice them up and freeze them that way. So I like to take this same stuffed pepper recipe. I like to do it with sausage as well, mushrooms. You can do these with literally anything. That's kind of the cool part about them. But I also like to do it with the round zucchinis, the little ball zucchinis. Really with any type of squash. Stuffed squash is just so delicious, and the possibilities are never ending. So it's kind of whatever you have on hand. I didn't show you guys, when I hollow out these peppers, I just cut the tops off, and I will dice up these tops and use them elsewhere. And then I just take my knife and I cut the ribs that hang on to the seeds, and then I just pull the whole thing out and kind of twist it, and it should pull right out. And there, your pepper's all ready to go. I did run out of cheese, but that's okay, because you can always throw cheese on top of these when you take them out to put them in the oven. So I do have 4 big ones, and 3 smaller ones. Those 3 smaller ones are going to be great either for like Stevie Wren to have one, or for me to have one for lunch. So I would say we have 3 dinners and 1 lunch worth of stuffed peppers here for us, which is really awesome. That's 3 meals that later on down the road I won't have to prep and deal with. I'll just pull it out and put it in the oven. Our goal every garden season is to ideally fill 3 to 4 1-gallon bags of diced or sliced peppers. We could easily go through 5 to 6 in a winter. You know, we love to just grab a handful of peppers and throw them into a dish like you would onions. So we do try to fill as many of these with diced and sliced peppers as we can. And like I said, this is why I love preserving peppers, because you just cut them up however you please. I feel like we use slices more than we use diced. And then you just throw them in the bag and throw them in the freezer. And you have peppers later on that you don't have to prep. And frozen peppers saute up really nicely. Unlike some other things that like get real soggy and it takes forever to brown them up, peppers do a little bit better. So I have at least another 2.5 gallon bucket full of more peppers in the fridge that I also need to slice up and get in the freezer. Now that I have all the ones that I can fill are full. So I will probably get one really full 1 gallon bag of sliced peppers, probably 1.5 bags of sliced peppers, plus 3.5 meals of stuffed peppers out of our most recent harvest. So that's a win for me. That's pretty good considering I did not tend our garden this year at all because we were so busy with moving and infrastructure and everything in between. The garden really got neglected this year. The fact that we're even getting this many peppers just once is super exciting, and there was a ton more on them, so I'm hoping for another big harvest plus a small one at the end of the season is what I would love to see out of the pepper plants. At this point, we can really get a frost any time. It's not likely we'll get one before October, but once October hits, man, it's anybody's game at that point. Mother Nature can come in and end all of our gardening for the year. Sometimes we go until November. It's really, Maine is a very unpredictable place to live. It really is. People are like, oh man, where I live is so hot, where I live is so cold, where I live is so rainy, where I live is so dry. Maine is hot, cold, rainy, and dry. Whenever it feels like it. So it's a struggle, but you learn to roll with the punches. Tomorrow, the next video you guys will see will be of prepping for us to get the lower end of the hurricane. The hurricanes always end here, right? So sometimes when they end here, it's nothing. It's a little bit of rain, a little bit of lightning, no big deal. Sometimes they get here and they're still pretty rugged. I think we're looking at 70-mile-per-hour winds, which last time we got a storm like that up here, the majority of the state was out of power for a week and everything was flooded, and there was actually a few casualties from trees falling on houses. So it was pretty bad. Guys, it was pretty bad the last time. Sissy. It was pretty bad the last time we got a storm like that. So I'm hoping and praying that everybody stays safe and that maybe it won't be that bad by the time it gets here. It can change a lot as it's coming up, and that happens a lot too. We are not getting it until Saturday morning, super early Saturday morning. So it still has 24 hours to change what it wants to do, and they do that a lot. Hurricanes change within 15 minutes. If you live on the coast, you're super familiar with the fact that a hurricane can go from bad to good or good to bad really quickly with very little notice or time to make changes. So the next video you guys will see will be me and Kingston are going to go out tomorrow, and because tomorrow's Friday, and get all of the livestock bedded down pretty heavy. It's not cold out yet, so like we won't be looking at like pneumonia or anything, but heavy winds and rains can stress them out a little bit, especially the ones like the sheep are still on summer pasture. So there's little coverage out there, so we're going to have to look into what we can do to get everybody comfortable for the 24 hours of high wind and pouring rain that we're going to get, on top of the ridiculous amount of rain that we've already gotten this summer. So I'm sure we'll also have some pretty intense flash flooding. So I actually will probably get closer to 2 gallons of sliced peppers from what I still have in the fridge, because that little bit of tops I had right there filled the bag already that full. So that's really exciting. Thank you guys for coming along with me on this video. I hope this inspired you to get some ready-made pepper meals in your freezer, and I hope it inspired you to try growing peppers next year. They are difficult to grow, but they are so worth it once you can figure it out, so don't give up on that. I will talk soon. Happy homesteading.